Why do you feel like you can't connect with other people? Let's explore that on today's Ask a Shrink. Hang on. So being here on this planet is all about making connections, right? I mean, we want to connect with others, share our feelings, talk, have our feelings mirrored back to us, find out what's going on with other people. We want friends, we want to fall in love. Oftentimes we want to raise a family. We're social beings. It's in our DNA. We want to connect with other people. So sometimes many of us have trouble connecting with other people. And what's that about? If you're a victim of emotional incest, what is that about? Well, primarily it's because you never were able to connect with your own mother or father, or perhaps both. Being a victim of emotional incest means that you were taken advantage of. You were used to some degree by either your father or your mother, and they use you for their own emotional benefit. They use you to make themselves feel good, to enjoy life, to feel like they have a partner in life, because they're certainly not spending that time with their spouse, with their husband or wife, so they're picking out a child and making that child be their little mini husband or mini wife. Well, if you're that chosen child, you're not making an authentic connection with that parent because you're being used. So what you're learning right from the get-go is that love is conditional and you're not really connected. It's just about how you perform, how you put on, how you act for the perpetrating parent, and the authentic you doesn't really matter. Well, if that's how you feel about yourself, and most victims of emotional incest do feel that way, then you have not made a connection with anybody when you're very young. Those formative years, birth through age 5 or 6, when everything is gelling and forming, you are not really connected to anybody because your own mother or father has symbolically abandoned you. Well, that bond, that attachment style is really important for kids as they're growing up. That's how they begin to love themselves and feel confident and good and can go out there and take the world on and be who they are. And they want to meet somebody who's also being who they are also. But instead of doing all of that, you have to hide, you have to kind of shield your real feelings. You can't really be who you are. You got to be a chameleon. You're walking on eggshells because you were never allowed to just simply be and be connected with for who you authentically are. Now, of course, you don't have the words for it then. You don't even know that it's going on then. You're not aware of the dynamics of all of this, but it is happening. You don't feel connected, and that gives you an uneasy feeling. There's something off, something you can't put your finger on. So, hence, there's no connections. You're this young kid. You don't know what connections are really all about. You feel off on some level. And by the way, this applies to most children who are victims of any kind of abuse. But today I'm zooming in on just children who are victims of emotional incest. And so then you grow up with that void inside of you. What's that void about? Usually you can feel it right here. There's something missing. And then you're an adult, you're out on your own. Maybe you haven't had therapy yet, so you really don't understand what's happened to you in your childhood, that you really are traumatized, that you're a victim of emotional incest. So then you're wondering why relationships are hard. Friendships, romantic relationships, whatever it is, you're struggling and you don't quite know why. Well, it's because you haven't learned what an authentic connection is all about, because it wasn't provided for you when you were young. So think about it. It's not your fault if you weren't trained that way or given the opportunity to really bond or connect with a father or mother who's really interested in you. If you have to grow up and put on a show, then you don't know what it's like to really bond with somebody. You know what it's like to perform, but you don't know what it's like to bond. So as an adult, there's going to be some struggles in this area, and you may wonder why you keep trying and trying and trying, but nothing fills that void. Well, number one, the trauma and the damage from early childhood has to be addressed. So those feelings have to be worked on, number one. You have to understand what you went through, have empathy for yourself in the regard that you were a victim, you were traumatized. That brings up a lot of feelings: sadness, anger, maybe some shame because you felt that there was something wrong with you when of course there wasn't. Once you work through those feelings and then you make a connection with yourself, that's when you're ready to move on to a true connection with other people. So you have a tremendously hard time making connections, but remember, the answer lies in yourself. Probably going to some therapy, doing some inner work, and making that connection with yourself. You don't have to make it with your parents. In fact, your parents may be dead and gone for all we know. So it's not about doing that work with your parents. If you can somehow do it in family therapy with your parents, that's fantastic. There's nothing wrong with that, but you don't need to have them present to do this kind of work. The work you want to do is with yourself, loving yourself, getting to know your feelings, understanding yourself, making the connection with yourself. And then once you've made this connection here with you, then you're going to be able to go out in the world and make true, authentic connections with other people, because now you understand and know on a deeper level what a connection is really all about. So I hope this video has been helpful about understanding why you're having such a hard time connecting with other people. It's very common for victims of abuse. Please leave me some comments. I'd love to hear if you've gone through this in your life. Please subscribe to my mental health YouTube channel if you like these kind of videos. And until next week, this is Brian Shore signing off from Ask a Shrink.